a zombie apocalypse, your success or failure will be defined by several needs, but the one above all others is food. And with the plethora of new options to create a sustainable life in an undead world, I wanted to know what it took to create the ultimate farm, home to endless crops, various livestock, and most importantly, the hub for a safe haven to rival them all. Now that journey starts right here at Dark Wallow Lake, because I had managed to take control of this giant resort, but my focus now was on the farm of my dreams. In the early days of this new chapter, I was initially getting my bearings, both for what I'd done so far and how to attack the key problem of acquiring everything I'd need to get the farm established. So before gallivanting off around the world aimlessly, I set forth a few key goals to try to accomplish as a part of my farm plans. Number 1, I would need to build an initial area for livestock to keep them secure. Number 2, we'd need to locate a place where livestock was free for the taking. And number 3, all the while I'd have to make upgrades to my home to sustain my life long enough to make this ultimate farm a reality. Because setting all these plans out for livestock and then dying before I could complete them, that didn't seem like the best strategy. So we took things one step at a time. While I refamiliarized myself with the resort, I started working on a proper home area. I didn't exactly feel like heading out into trouble just yet, so making use of the next couple of days with base upgrades seemed like a way to start things off on a positive note. First, I laid out the plans for a main hub area in my home. A large room where I could install a kitchen, a bed, and hopefully, eventually, some plumbing to allow myself a safe place to prosper while I got the farm up and running. That required a lot of breaking down walls, collecting various planks from around the resort, and completing the border of the room with what carpentry skills I already had. By the time I got the basics of the room down, I was already beginning to run low on my food stocks, so I put my fishing skills to the test, heading out into the rain and finding a hot spot, and sure enough, this was pretty light work thanks to my fishing pier, and my skills in fishing I'd established previously. Oh, this is a big one. This is a big one. Come a little closer. Whoa! That is absolutely similar size, is what I was going to say. Hey, some people call that big, you know. That's all that matters. That's a real big. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Oh, that's a juicer. What is that? Alligator guy? Is that a fish? I don't even know what that is. That's gotta be a big boy. That thing is. Oh my god. It's like. Oh my god. It's heavy. It's huge. As I had improved my fishing skills, my catches grew more and more substantial. Some weighing so much, just lugging them back to the fridge was problematic enough. Speaking of the fridge, now that my new room was semi-functional, I'd begun to install and place a few cabinets and the like to create my new kitchen area. With my carpentry skill being what it wasn't much, but it did the job. But I was so successful at fishing that the fridge space I had so far just wouldn't cover it. So I headed down to the lower floor to collect one of the fridges from the main restaurant of the resort. And it took some work to lug back, but now I had a little bit more space to work with. And to add on to all that, no kitchen is complete without a stove. So I collected my fire stove from my temporary room and brought it into the fold so that I could prepare meals with far more efficiency. Eventually, I wanted to get an electric oven installed, but right now I didn't have the electrical skill required to do so. And frankly, I had a lot of scrap wood lying around anyway, so it wasn't too much work to light a fire. These were all important advancements in making my little home area more equipped for post-apocalyptic life. So with the framework of my living space now in place, I directed my eyes to the first steps of one of my other goals. I suspected that in order to keep livestock, I'd need to have an area where they could be safely homed. In reality, the livestock zones did function without walls, but if at any point they witnessed too much noise, or worse, a Zed, they would flee off in every direction. So I opted instead for a more civilized option, and started working on a fenced-off area to the left side of the resort. Fortunately, creating this area was aided by the usage of my axe, which I'd acquired on the long journey to Irvington, and my carpentry skills were by no means insignificant, so I was able to make slow but steady progress. And to be frank, this is definitely what you would consider slow. Each fence piece would require a few planks, each tree would provide a couple of logs. All in all, I pretty much wiped out the entire tree covered area besides the resort, and started having to cut down the forest outside my walls for more timber. Though in this case, the fact that I was so far from civilization meant that I wouldn't run into much trouble here anyway, making this more of a brute force task than one that would require finesse. After several days of slogging away at my first pen, I finally had the outer structures established enough to be able to start playing around with the livestock zone system. Though at this point it was rather superfluous, I still still tested a few arrangements just to learn what I was dealing with. And though it was a little buggy in some instances, with the zones becoming strangely conjoined but also separated at the same time, I felt comfortable enough that if I could acquire some animals, they would at least stay inside my fenced area for now. With a few different zones established, I placed a few troughs within the walled area of each section. For livestock to prosper in this world, they'd require both food and water. Water could be easily gathered by just waiting for a rainy day, but food would come in a few different forms. First, there was animal feed bags, which could be looted, and in the past I had acquired a few bags here or there that I'd kept on hand. But in addition, one way to produce feed for animals was to obtain grass cuttings, which, you guessed it, came from cutting grass. These weren't as substantial as the animal feed bags, but being surrounded by almost infinite grass made this a pretty sustainable option either way. Between the 3 spaces I'd set up, I felt comfortable enough to say that if I came across any animals, I'd be in a good spot to house them, temporarily at least. And to be clear, I had a grander plan for my farm that was a little bit more polished, but for now this would do the trick. Which left me with one thing to address, because I hadn't thought about it up until this point, but acquiring some of the larger livestock would require one thing that I definitely didn't have. I have done some thinking, and by thinking, I really mean that I have been looking at the map, because my thinking no think right now. But I believe there are, there's going to be plenty of locations that we can find animals potentially. There is a fundamental problem with anything we do, and that is that if we don't find a livestock trailer, we are cooked. And there's a problem with that because the only livestock trailer that I can remember seeing is the one that is near the mall in Irvington. No easy task to get to. So, but we need one because we can get chickens and stuff, but we can't get the big boys. We need the big boys. We need the cows. So the only way we can get them, livestock trailer. How do we get a livestock trailer? So with a rough plan in place to acquire a livestock trailer, I took care of some basic needs of the base, preparing for the trip, refilling the generator, and then heading out with one of the taxis I'd acquired for my first look around the area. In reality, I didn't really have a great idea of where I could acquire a livestock trailer, but I thought for a start, checking any nearby farmhouses and looting them in the process would be a win-win. If I found a livestock trailer, then I could get started on my farm, but if I didn't, I'd still be able to loot these houses for any essential farming or livestock items, and collect any additional food and resources that would help with other issues I had to address, since I was also starting to run low on some of the basic items like seasonings and the like to keep my calories up. My weight had taken a hit over the past few days, so I was starting to get a little thin, which definitely didn't help with any hand-to-hand combat. It may not seem like it, but I had been stuck inside my resort area for a fair while, so it was nice to be on the road and exploring again, even if it wasn't on the scale I'd tackled prior. The first house I came across was quaint, and I had to tackle a few zombies out the front, but no livestock trailer to be found. I still checked through most of the containers inside to see if there was any loot worth taking, and there was actually a pretty substantial amount of goodies to acquire. In addition, I found a peculiar note in the bedroom on the 2nd floor. State log. Again, a good book. Romantic letter. The hell is this?
Patrice, how I long for your company once again. But alas, father says I must stay here in France so that one day I can take over his shoeshine business. That precious summer we celebrated by Dark Wallow Lake fills every empty space in my heart. But do not fear, my dear. When you receive this message, I will already be on my way to visit once more. The only thing that could separate our love now would be the apocalypse itself. I will see you soon, my love. Regards, Theodore.
Well, that was fucking weird. I'm gonna leave that here. Afterwards, I made my way to the barn outside to check if there were any animals or feed bags, but the only thing I found was not exactly useful. Oh my... Fuck you! Why does this always happen to me? Why does this always happen to me? Oh, I'm gonna have heart issues, man. Hell? After recovering my mental stability, I circled back around to the house, remembering that I hadn't yet checked the garage. And it was fortunate that I had remembered, because inside I found a second generator to add to my collection. I made my way further down the road to continue looting any additional houses I could find, and it had become clear at this point that bringing the taxi may not have been the best option, since in each and every house I found a pretty decent amount of valuable items, making my space quickly diminish. The second generator itself occupied around 45 units of space, but I was convinced with some meticulous organizing I could fit just a little bit more. In one of the sheds from a nearby house, I saw something pretty promising, what appeared to be some sort of gun locker, so I made my way inside in the hopes of finding some weaponry to use down the line. I'm sure is it, or was that me? That was me. Right. Am I wrong, or is that a gun locker? I just can't help but feel like I've been scammed. I don't really know what to say about that. I guess I'll take the welder's mask. I already have one, but... Now, in all honesty, it was a little disappointing that I didn't find anything else of note, but at this point in my journey, finding useful tools and the like was enough to keep me happy. And overall, this looting run added a heap of valuable top-ups to my essential needs. I followed the long road home. Devoid of any wandering Zeds, the country offered a familiar serenity that I had grown comfortable in. I was certainly not free of the threat of the undead, and further in this adventure, I would yet again go toe-to-toe with a few of them. But for now, I was focused on my humble and peaceful goal of creating the ultimate farm. Once I'd arrived home, I first unloaded the generator, deciding to try and hook it up to the front of the resort. I'd hoped this might provide coverage of the other side of the building that my initial generator couldn't reach. But in all honesty, I'm not sure if it was execution or lack of functionality, but it really didn't cover any of the building, instead providing power to just a few lights out in the car park. For now, I left it running, mostly because I wasn't aware of that yet, and I was in a hurry to get other things done. I unloaded the remaining items from the taxi onto the floor. As many survivors know, the floor is the most expansive and free-flowing form of storage you can have in Project Zomboid, so I made sure to take advantage of it when possible. Since I wasn't yet too drowsy, I spent some time working on my base. First, I'd need to get a proper bed set up in the headquarters, which wouldn't be too difficult, since I could acquire the parts for one from the various leftovers of my bed dismantling run in the resort. And though it took me a bit of fiddling, particularly because I didn't realize I'd need all 4 parts of the original bed, eventually I lugged back each part to the main HQ and got a bed set up. With the bed in place, I called it a night. Though I'd stayed up a little late, the fact that I had the wakeful trait meant that I had still woken up nice and early in the morning, ready to tackle another day. Now, this place wasn't perfect, but it was starting to take shape as a HQ for my farm, and it would be something I'd passively focus on upgrading across this journey. For now, I moved all the loot from the day prior up the stairs, onto my advanced storage system. Afterwards, it was time for me to prepare for another trip out. Having learned my lesson from the day prior, I opted instead to take out my green van. Before heading off, I noticed it could use a little touch-up, so I commandeered another hood from a separate van, transferring it to my green van, which was in far better condition. My mechanic's skill meant that this took a few tries, but eventually I was able to look upon a decent conditioned vehicle that would certainly be capable of supporting any future journeys. To fill the rest of the day, I prepared a few meals for the trip ahead, since I wouldn't want to be dependent on food if my trip went longer than planned. And after a short sleep, I woke up bright and early, before the sun had even risen. In most situations, this would be a little dangerous, but I knew I had a couple of hours drive before I'd reach anything of note to loot either way. As I made my way down the road, I ummed and erred between 2 options. I'd been trying to avoid the idea of going as far as Irvington, since even though I knew that there might be livestock trailers there, in reality it was extremely risky just to get in and out safely. And at this point I wanted to stay focused on the farm, rather than get caught in a week-long war with the undead. So instead I headed somewhere a little closer, a small residential area about halfway down the road, in the hopes that I might find a wayward livestock trailer here. But if I didn't, I'd still find plenty of loot to add to my stores, particularly food seasonings and spices to bump my weight up. As I arrived, I faced a few wayward Zeds, but nothing like I'd find in Irvington. These zombies were pretty manageable. Now normally I'd try and shove and stomp zombies wherever possible, but now that I had a decent supply of tools, I was intermittently using my shovel where needed, since leveling up my long blunt skill would make my tools do more damage, take less work to maintain, and cause less muscle strain. After clearing the excess of undead, I worked my way through the houses here, finding an assortment of food, literature, and tools that would come in handy. These general looting trips were satisfying but not groundbreaking. However, many of these items would be essential in the setup for my farm. Particularly having a decent supply of food to keep me sustained while building was a necessity. After making my way through the houses, I opted to head further down the road. For people who know their way around the new map, down this road was a familiar location, a lodge that resided on the other side of Dark Wallow Lake. While it wouldn't be essential to my progression, it was something that piqued my curiosity. Yeah, that's not looking worthwhile, I don't think. That's a few days of clearing, at least. Back to plan 8, checking the farms. So the lodge was a little bit out of reach for now, but it was interesting to lay my eyes on it at least for the future. That's not foreshadowing, I really am not going back there. For now. On the way home, I dropped by one more farmhouse. It wasn't much, but it filled the remaining space in my van, forcing me to trek back to the resort. And before night fell, I had made it home, my use of time growing more efficient with each passing day. I quickly unloaded the van into my high-tech storage system, before taking care of a few random tasks and calling it a night. I hadn't lost focus on my goal. I now had enough excess food stocks and various items to keep me going at the resort, but my primary issue still existed. I needed a livestock trailer. And though I had tried to avoid it up until this point, I could no longer deny that the only trailer I knew about was the one outside the mall. Well, until I remembered another one. So, I believe, if I remember correctly, the trailer was located like right here. If I remember correctly. If I don't remember correctly, I probably already mentioned it in the recording, in the video, so you know that I'm going into ruin. But right now, I have high hopes and I'm feeling confident. I'm not particularly excited to be going back to Irvington. This is not a looting trip. This is exclusively to get a livestock trailer. Please let me remember that when I get there. God help me if I see something enticing. So with a general plan in place, I headed off down the long trek to Irvington, hoping that I might be able to sneak in and out with the livestock trailer required. As I followed the road further and further, I decided to opt for a bit of a niche strategy. Knowing that this potential trailer was just a few steps away from the train track in Irvington, I took the turn off onto the train tracks halfway down the road, thinking that I could follow them all the way into town and avoid the large groups of undead near the main street. However, after following this train track for a hefty amount of time, it became apparent that it was just not really worth it. The lack of speed on these tracks was too significant, and I didn't want to be arriving in Irvington in the middle of the night. So once I saw a turn off back onto the regular road, I took it, knowing it would eventually lead me back onto the main street and I could continue on my journey at full speed. Sometimes all the wrong decisions can lead to just a little bit of luck. What is this? But before I get to that, I want to thank today's sponsor, Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. For those of you who enjoy turn-based tactical strategy games, or if you're just a fan of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, Tacticus is an exciting new mobile game that I wholeheartedly recommend you try out. As a huge fan of tactical, fast-paced gameplay, I love that I can fight against or work alongside other players in high-stakes battles, all from the palm of my hand. What's incredible about this game is you can choose from over 80 legendary champions from 18 different playable factions, but for me, none come before Rask, the Butcher. Rask is a Chaos Terminator from the World Eaters faction, and nothing is more satisfying than being able to control the battlefield like a walking tank, chaining together kills with his chain axe and close-range flamethrower. Tacticus has an average 4.5 rating across app stores, and that's because the devs have been adding heaps of new features, including fresh content and new game modes to keep long-term players like myself coming back for more. So please, join me on the battlefield and download the game today by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on the screen. And as an added bonus, you can use the gift code HELLOMAR, that's HELLOMAR, to get a bonus of 2,000 gold and 50 blackstones. Thanks again to Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus for sponsoring this video. Tell me that's a livestock trailer. I genuinely don't know. It's gotta be, it's a cattle farm, bro. So annoying, man. So annoying. Bro, that's gotta be. It's like, what are you? Oh, let's go! Let's go! Let's go! This is a cattle farm as well. I might find like cows in here. Oh, baby. Never mind Irvington. Oh my goodness. If I hadn't have chosen to turn off, we never would have found this. Moral of the story, always make bad decisions because eventually they'll lead to good decisions. All right, let's see what we got. Farming store. Take that key. I hear one. Oh yeah, there it is. Please don't be many. There's storage in there. I'm starting to feel really good about this. The hell? It's like a stage. It's like farm shows? I don't know. Weird though. Looks like that's more of a farm over there. Alright, I mean, let's check this place out. Boy, really? Shit. Gonna be a little bit more complicated than I thought. What I was gonna say is we're really kind of hoping for cows because cows make milk, milk makes butter, butter makes calories. That is a cow. It just phased through the wall, so that's a good sign. All right, nice and slow here. You want to kind of line them up in a rhythm. Hopefully get those first few. Like that. Well, that almost couldn't have gone better, which means I'm due for some bad luck. Bro, those cows are losing it. That's another thing, is the cows are probably losing it because of the Zeds. So I wonder if they'll just, as soon as the Zeds are gone, they'll just stop. That would be nice, because I would love to not have them be a pain in the ass to catch. Okay, there's pigs here as well. If I sledge the side, there's a very real possibility they'll all come flying out. I don't know if I necessarily want that. Well, you might have to take the risk. They're less panicked now, it looks like. Okay. There's chickens in here, I can hear them. Ooh, turkeys. This is the mother load, but I need that rope. Please tell me there's supplies and a rope. There's Zeds in here. Cool, that is a rope. I don't know what I want most. You can tell if they're a male or a female. Gender female. I don't have enough rope. I need more rope. Surely there's a little bit more rope in here. You really gotta watch the ground these days. There's more stuff on the ground than like in old builds. Oh my god, there's literally every animal I'd ever need here. Okay. It's a little scuffed, but it's fine. Let's go, Angus cow. You will be the first member of my new family. I shall name you Denise. Yes, henceforth you shall be known as Denise, the Angus cow. Oh, they are escaping. That's okay. All right, so now the question is, how can I fit one cow in here? Like, what's the situation? I would assume I can only fit one animal in here, but I might be able to take chickens in my hands. Put animal in trailer. Oh, there is, okay. Check animals in trailer. So I have 159 space left. Shall I take some sheep? Oh god, they're dying of thirst. I need to save these animals. Aww. A little lamb. Will you fit in? 26? It'll be snug. No, it won't fit. But I can carry one in theory. Can I put you in like the boot, literally? No, okay. Sorry, Suffolk lamb, I'll have to come back for you. Okay, that's livable. Let's do our first trip. Listen, lamb, I would strongly... Editor, cut that out. He walked into it. What was I supposed to do? I had no choice. So with all things considered, this was an exceptionally successful trip. Not only had I acquired a livestock trailer, but I began my trek home with a few new members of the family. My Angus cow Denise and company. My farm was officially off to a red hot start. I'm now recognizing that I will need a gate, because otherwise how are they going to get inside the pen? I can't lead them in. I don't think you really need to lock them in. It's just more like a, you know, immersion thing. Like, I don't want them to just walk out. Well, that one's going head on. And I need fuel badly. So it doesn't seem like a long drive, but when you're actually driving it, it feels like a very long drive. So that's why I kind of need to be efficient with like what animals I take, because I need to get the right pairs so I can reproduce them on my end. But I want to collect everything, bro. I want to catch them all. After arriving home, I recognized that without a gate on my pen, things weren't exactly going to work out as planned. So for now, I used a sledgehammer to open up a hole in the fence. With the zones set up, the only reasons animals would actively run out of their space was if there was too much noise or zombies strayed nearby. So even a hole in the fence would be okay in the short term, as long as I replaced it with a gate down the line. I unloaded my new friends into their new home. The weather wasn't the most welcoming, but frankly, it was still probably nicer than their dark, damp barn that they were trapped in prior. After a little bit of organizing of loot, I headed back down during the night and started to fix up some of the missing pieces of the farm. I installed a gate in the fence and became quickly aware that my chicken would need a chicken hutch. For what purpose, I wasn't sure, but nonetheless, it wouldn't be too hard to find the parts for one, even in darkness. Oh, shit. Ow. You just... that chicken just fucking bit me in the dick. That chicken just bit me in the dick. That was an accident. Following a few minutes of acquiring items and shifting around, I finally placed down a chicken hutch in the bottom corner. Though I couldn't really look at it in all its glory since, well, I couldn't see much at this time of night. Instead, I quickly headed inside to call it a night, knowing my animals were at least set up for now. And by the time the morning came around, I was reinvigorated by my recent successes, opting to waste little time in clearing out the taxi and heading off for another run to the farm. It was nice to feel a resounding sense of progress. Not the kind of progress that was superficial like minor upgrades to my humble abode, but the kind of progress that drew me closer to my goal, the farm of my dreams. The drive to the barn felt long, but in reality I was getting used to traveling long distances, since my home was a long distance from pretty much everything.
Alrighty. Priority number 1, Angus cow, male. The Angus cows are the blacks, and we're looking for a male. I think they will actually look different, so I assume they're gonna look like bulls. This is obviously a female, but okay, just to be sure. You are also a female. This is obvious. Everyone knows that, right? You have horns. You are what I'm looking for, Angus bull. So something I've just clocked is I don't know if will attack animals of the same species means cow or Angus cow. I think it's gonna mean cow, which means I do need to separate them. Uh-oh. That could have gone a lot worse. God forbid if I shove this thing. I already had a chicken by my dick. Okay, East Frisian. A ewe is obviously a female, I guess. Ewe. That could be a male right there. It looks different. Okay. No East Frisian male. Alright, let's move to plan B then. We get ourselves some bacon. I mean, pigs. It seems like in general the females are more common, so maybe we look for a male or whatever it is we're taking. You can kind of fast walk with this. Cannot run, but you can fast walk. Yeah, it does fit. We're not going to fit much else. 2 we can do. 2 is doable. It's going to be a lot of food, but I got to fatten myself up.
Night had fallen by the time I returned home with my second load of animals, so I quickly shifted them into pens and headed inside to call it a night. In the morning, I prepared another fish roast. Though it was becoming a little bland, the excessive amount of seasonings and spices I'd collected was certainly doing their part in making it more palatable. As opposed to spending another day on the road, I instead opted to check on some of the work I'd done previously on my farm. Unfortunately though, I started to uncover some troubling signs.
What happened to it? Didn't it rain? It's been raining. Why are like some of them just dead? I don't know why. Like half of them are just dead. Like I don't really understand. Did they get overwatered? Like this, I can't water it. Is there a roof over this? No? I don't really understand. Is that the disease?
So not everything was going to plan, and this issue killing my crops would become a consistent issue, one that I wouldn't fully unpack until further down the line. Needless to say that the extra food I'd acquired was certainly all the more useful now that it was my only food. For now, I opted to try attempt number 2 on my crops, setting up a new area on the other side of the road, with the hopes that whatever went wrong with attempt number 1 would be resolved in this new location. I was fortunate to have an extensive amount of seeds, so it was no issue to set up some crops that were strong at this time of year. After spending the next few hours watering the new space, I took care of some much needed organization inside the base. And by that of course I meant I spent some time moving all the items from downstairs into their storage home upstairs, amongst the rest of my items in the great storage pile to rule them all. With that dealt with in a manner befitting my incredible organization skills, I took some time to be in touch with nature once again, heading to the pier to further increase my fishing skills. And where before I had caught just one fish, this time I caught many more. Multiple fish, some weighing so much that I could barely even carry them upstairs. It was truly proving to be an incredibly sustainable source of food. Though the problem still remained. Without supplies from crops to fill out the meals, this would ultimately barely keep me alive. A well-balanced diet was the key to surviving out here in the wilderness. poisonous. Nonetheless, I spent time lugging these giant fish inside, and they were so giant that I actually ran into a lack of fridge space. So I headed downstairs to the restaurant area of the resort. Since I knew there were plenty of fridges back here, and though it took some work, I managed to one by one install several more fridges back in the HQ. The only problem being that these would certainly cost a lot more power, which wouldn't be the best option in the long run. For now though, it was a problem I was happy to have, since now I was stocked up on fish enough to keep me going for a long while. Now I could direct my focus forward on one of my next large goals. Yes, I could spend day after day lugging animals back and forth, but in all honesty, this pen area was not sustainable for the amount of animals I wanted to have. And while I had plenty of space out here in the forest, most of it was not secure. So how could I resolve this? Well, my plan started with a wall that would completely surround the remaining open sides of my resort, inclusive of a large field area for my animals and an area where I could fit crops too. And this was going to be a huge undertaking, but in the interest of being fully secure and completing my ultimate farm, it had to be done. So without further ado, I took the first steps laying out the framework for the future. I started at the top end, where this new wall would join my existing one, since getting a large wooden gate set up would save me in the long run if I needed to do any more looting runs. Once I had a gate up and running, I began the long haul. First, the frames would need to be established. I worked tirelessly, cutting trees, sawing logs, moving planks, each full backpack completing a new section of wall frames, each new section bringing me closer to my goal. And by the time a full day had passed, I had completed the basic structure. It still needed to be reinforced with the actual walls, but half the job was complete. After completing the frames, I spent some time doing a few basic upgrades to my HQ, moving a few lights around, cleaning things up. It wasn't a requirement to move forward, but taking regular breaks away from the monotony of the wall building was necessary for my mental health at the very least. The next morning, my task continued. More trees, more logs, more planks, the structure beginning to take shape. My stability was questionable. Being out here so long, alone, it took its toll on a man. I just kept moving forward, these timber walls beginning to feel like a jail cell, but whenever I lost focus, I was able to take in the scents, the sounds, the feeling of the wind in this serene resort location. If I was going to be trapped anywhere, this was certainly the best place to be trapped. I spent some time amongst the animals, trying to learn how to operate a farm. The chickens had started to lay eggs. As to what to do with these eggs, how they would become chicks, I wasn't sure, but it was progress still, and it was a nice little respite from the long haul on the other side of the resort. But before long, I returned to the task at hand, each load of logs covering more and more of the fence up, sealing me in, a safe haven from the undead world outside. And before long, on the following day, my outer wall was complete, allowing me to now focus on everything that this wall was meant to protect. But I got a little distracted because I spotted a chicken in my pen that I didn't remember collecting.
When did I get the third chick? Did that grow up without me even realizing it existed? What is going on? They're attacking each other. There's two males. That's not going to work. How did I... What? Why do I feel like this is a bug?
Now, one thing I learnt from the multiple warnings on the UI is that two males from the same species would not work well together. So I was fortunate that the wall was up and running because I had to quickly put together the first of my new pens, so that I had a home for this second male cockerel. And it was pretty thrown together, certainly not the final product, but I was able to quickly get down a new hutch and some troughs to supply this lone soldier with enough to get by for now. Now that I had dealt with that short-term problem, I was able to spend some time using my temporary pen as a template for the long-term plans. Now at this point, obviously setting out any amount of pens would be arbitrary, since I didn't particularly know how many pens I would need. So for now, I just went with what fit into the space I had comfortably. I laid out each pen to the same sizes, using the zoning system to configure the sizings and make it nice and clear for me to build around. One secret benefit to the zoning system that you might not consider is that it actually acted as a little space planning tool, since opening the zone UI would show your set areas and closing it would hide them. It was a little bonus that might come in handy, not just for now, but for down the line. So with my pens set out, I focused first on building the corners of each fence. That way I'd be able to close the zone UI and continue working without having to check the areas. But to be frank, I was starting to grow a little tired of the same site each day, so I planned a little looting trip to break the pattern.
I think we finish one field and then we go out and get some more animals and pick up some food on the way. Okay, so this is a looting trip, not a farm trip. I need to keep that in mind. I'm not really sure where I can go. I mean, I could check out those factories there that are further down. I don't know if there'll be much loot there. We can just have a look and see what's going on. I think until we can properly finish the fields, if bringing more animals back is going to be pointless, because in reality they're all going to attack each other. What would be other? I guess we can go to March Ridge. Oh, actually, I don't know. It might not be closer. You know what? Let's do it. I literally don't think I've ever been there.
I wasn't particularly familiar with the Martridge area, but I did know that the outskirts were pretty low density and good areas to loot a few residential houses. In this current version of the world, looting houses was actually deceivingly valuable, since a lot of the resources that you used to find in abundance at hotspots like tool warehouses and libraries were now actually pretty common finds in household bookcases or garages. So spending some time in areas like this was pretty valuable for your long-term survival prospects. I didn't find much that was game-changing, but I was able to stock up on more of the seasonings that would increase my caloric intake, which was helpful in getting my weight back up to healthy. And as an added bonus, I was able to put to test something that I'd read in a comment on my last video.
Grapefruit again might have seeds in it. We'll find out. Oh, here we go. Tweezers. All right, let's see. Bell pepper. Collect seeds. Perfect. Thank you. Hold on 1 second. Thanks, Dark Rajin 3648. There you go. We all learned something today, and by we, I mean I learned something, not you.
With my green van filled to the very brim, I headed back on the road towards my resort. Another successful looting trip in my rearview mirror. Upon returning home, I remembered that I had some rabbits in my freezer that I had acquired earlier. So I made a combined roast with some game, fish, vegetables, and seasonings that would be a little bit more substantial for me over the coming days. With all the time spent working on the farm, my generator was beginning to get low once again. So I spent some more time dismantling televisions and clocks for more scrap electronics, before heading down and touching up the generator. I didn't want the generator to fall too low on durability, since a fire next to a wooden resort wouldn't make the best pairing, so I made sure to always check on it. And before long, my mission continued. Hours and hours of grinding away at cutting trees, sawing logs, lugging planks, and building fences. My ultimate farm was beginning to take shape. Over the past few days, I had finished off 2 pens and got the basic markers set up for the remaining 5. I had even managed to get the fence gates set up in their entirety, so I wouldn't need to scavenge the resort for more hinges and handles. So I decided to add some more animals to my family.
No, I'm just getting chickens. I'm not taking a rope. I'm not getting distracted. Focus on chickens. Oh yeah, look at all those keys, huh? I've got 1,700 comments about that. That would have been useful. Why didn't anyone say anything?
And with my plan in place, I headed off, following the quiet road to my destination once again. This cattle farm proving to be the most valuable find I ever could have wished for.
Oh god, I just ran over the lamb again. Oops. Alright, we don't want the males. We've already got 2. Aww. What a little pit. Oh wait, you'll be lighter. Hold on. Hold on. You're perfect. Hold on. Female. Do I have a male? I have a male. Perfect. It is kind of a little weird because I'm picking up a piglet to take it home for it to grow up and breed with the much older pig, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about that, okay? It's easier to transport a piglet. I can't remember if we picked up a male or a female of you. Hopefully I got a hen. If not, I guess we'll have 2 toms. I think I got a hen because I don't... If I got one, I don't even remember getting one, but if I did. I'm definitely not too far from the back of the trailer. I did not write down what chickens I have, so I'm just going to kind of wing it. Seems like they're all females, but that's not possible. There must be a male because there's eggs in. There's so many of them. Wait, this is the only way you can get rabbits as they run into the thing. Yay! Let's go. So the thing with rabbits is, and I learned this from a very good friend of mine, Dark Moriarty. Thank you, Dark Moriarty. Apparently you can't catch them, but if they run into a zone, a farm zone, then you can pick them up and they become domesticated. So essentially you kind of have to play this like weird game where you're like trying to trap them in a zone so they can become domesticated. But that's why that was a win-win, because one has obviously run into there, and so we have ourselves our first rabbit. Problem is you're gonna need a second one, or else it's gonna be one rabbit that heads to its untimely demise. All right, let's roll. That was really productive.
With a trailer full of chickens, I headed home to populate one of my brand new pens. And throughout the night, I worked tirelessly, setting up troughs and unloading chickens. And in the morning, I checked my health and was pleasantly surprised.
We're kind of slowly climbing back up on the weight. 72 is not bad. We were at like 65 or something, so just those looting trips has helped a lot. Have a quick look at the state of affairs over here, and then we'll get back to work on the other pens.
I spent a large part of the day working on the pens outside, with more and more of them coming together. But in the evening, I got distracted by a small side goal that I had been thinking about for a while.
Man, those jeans got ripped up real fast. Wait, what electrical do I need to be to install the laundry machines? So, do you need to be plumbed? Why can't I turn you on? I don't know why I can't turn you on. Just gonna place the other one here for now. Is it because it needs water? Well, I guess we'll find out, because this would work then. Okay, so you work. So you need to be plumbed or something. Okay, time to try and figure out if this is possible to be plumbed. Now, in Build 42 by default, you cannot plumb them. There's just no way. But I do have a mod installed, which hopefully should fix it. Only problem being I have to somehow find the exact spot and build up to it. How am I going to build up to it, you might ask? Well, that would require me to have carpentry level 6, which I don't have, so I'm not going to be able to. Or I could build log stairs, which would cost me 12 logs? I'm going to have to get 12 rags and 12 logs. Easier said than done, would you believe? I don't have a lot of, like, clothes. I didn't keep them all, which would have been smart. I'm going to be literally scrounging. Yeah.
So this equation was a little bit more complex than it might initially seem. To set up plumbing, I'd have to find a way up to the roof. And since my carpentry was only level 5, the best set of stairs I could build would be log stairs. And these log stairs would require rags, which for some reason I was pretty much completely devoid of. This was going to be a little bit more difficult than I had initially envisioned, but it was a worthwhile time investment.
Alright, so here's the current plan. In case it was very vague since I'm doing a billion things at once. I'm going to build a staircase to the roof so that I can hopefully plumb the washing machine. Oh my fucking god, you can't do that! You can't do that! You jerk! You can't do that! That is not right. Holy. Goes to show how long it's been since I've interacted with zombies out here. That's the first one I've seen in weeks. Alright, don't get too comfortable is the moral of the story, ladies and gents.
Ironically, that zombie was actually pretty useful because he gave me the last 2 rags I'd needed. As I scaled to the top floor, I mulled over options for ascending to the roof, and conveniently I had access to a balcony that lined up with just about the right spot. So with a bit of shifting about, I was able to build my log staircase. Now this wasn't as simple as it seemed. At this height, one fall would be death, so I had to play extremely carefully, placing planks in the right places, making sure walls and roofs existed so I couldn't accidentally climb over to my death, but eventually, after shifting some timber back and forth and carving a path, I was able to climb to the roof. That allowed me to focus on the most monotonous task at hand, which was positioning my rain collector barrel right on top of where the washing machine was on the lower floors. And I did this in just about the most inconvenient way possible. I counted tiles down, left, right, up, placing chairs as markers and moving to higher floors. The wisest among you may note that there's a giant coordinates tab on the right-click context menu. This is because in the unstable version of the game, the data is automatically shown there. But since I was so used to not having this, I kind of just forgot it was there. But either way, through hell or high water, I found a way forward, placing my rain collector barrel and making my way downstairs to check if I was successful.
So chances are this is not going to work for this. Yeah. I don't even... Oh, I nailed it. I did it. I need a pipe wrench. That would be really funny if I didn't have one. I'm always prepared. I'm always prepared. Say what you will about me, I'm always prepared. There we go. She works.
And since the plumbing setup was running effectively, I took the time to also install a sink next to the washing machine. While I certainly wasn't running low on water just yet, in the long run this was gonna pay off. My headquarters was beginning to look a full enclosed and functional home, with running water, a kitchen, a bedroom space. It wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, but it was a hell of a lot more than I was working with on day one of this new chapter. But there was one glaring weakness in my resort, because despite all my successes, I had one consistent failure point that had been there since almost the start of my adventure.
Alright, if my crops still aren't growing, I don't really know what I'm going to do. If that's the case, I think it must be bugged. Like, you just might not be able to grow them. It's really hard to determine, like, at this point in the build, it's really hard to figure out what's a bug and, like, what's a feature and, like, what's a function. So, like, yeah, they're just not growing at all. Are they dead already or what? No, they're just seedlings. Oh, never mind. These are all dead. Alright, so it turns out there is a bug with the crops. So, moral of the story is, ladies and gents, build 42 is still unstable, and in order to fix it, I had to turn off growing seasons altogether. So that's a plus. I did go through and fix all my crops up here, but the ones down on the west side, I just kind of left. Take that as a sacrifice for figuring out that problem. Probably going to move most of the crops over near the new farm area where the animals are going to be. But now at least we have progress on our crops. And I've gone through and I've fixed these ones, so they should be back to normal hopefully now. They're progressing. That's progress. And now you know. And now I know too.
So it took a while to figure it out, but yeah, build 42 is unstable, people. Sometimes you just have to find a way to resolve things for now, and in the future, hopefully they'll be fixed. But for now, things were back up and running. I now had the comfort of knowing my crop problem would be resolved, meaning I could make a long-term plan for a larger crop area in the new farming space. Side note, since recording this voiceover, they have now fixed this bug, so you don't have to worry about it anymore, but yeah, it got me pretty bad. However, it was about damn time that I finished the pens, a job that I've been working on for weeks, and I was finally on the home stretch. So I stuck my head down and got to work.
That honestly might be enough to finish the last pen. How is there a chicken in there? How is there a chicken? The chickens teleport through walls. How? I don't know what I can, like, is it just when they get scared they can just teleport? I don't know what's going on.
So after a long slog of monotonous hard work, my pens were complete. Inside each pen were a pair of troughs, and I'd also used a large scythe to cut some grass from each pen and repurpose that grass as feed. The second trough in each pen would fill with water the next time it rained. Our ultimate pen space was complete, ready for our animals to be moved in. And to complete my ultimate farm, I knew that I would also need a farming plot to rival the best of them. It would be a hell of a lot of work to upkeep, but the ultimate farm required far more than just a small 4x5 space. Since I knew if the rain stopped I'd have a nightmare trying to water the crops, I opted to put my farming area right next to the lake. That way I'd be able to quickly refill and reuse a watering can or water containers, saving me precious minutes in the future. I started to dig furrows along the entire shore, a huge area to start off with given how many seeds I'd accrued across my journey so far. My plan was simple. Now the growing seasons were disabled due to the bug, there was nothing stopping me from going absolutely crazy, planting every single seed I had. That would surely qualify this as the ultimate farming space. But if I just planted those seeds now, I'd have to water each and every plot. And as someone who prioritizes working smarter and not harder, that was not the strategy I'd be going for. Instead, I would wait for the next spot of rain and then start planting every seed during the rain so that each crop would be automatically watered. And that plan didn't take too long to come to fruition, since by the middle of the day, the rain started to come down consistently and I started to make my dream farm a reality.
Right, if that's not enough produce to feed one man, IndieStone, we got a problem. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I got barely any seeds. That was almost all my seeds. I don't know if I really even want to fertilize it, to be honest. I guess I probably should, since I'll be able to grow some stuff faster. I'm gonna use it on like the bell peppers, since they'll actually be useful.
Now that all the puzzle pieces were coming together, I spent the afternoon moving across the animals into their new spaces, separating them by species. And once I'd completed the process of moving over the larger animals, I used all the new facilities in the HQ to give myself a well-deserved makeover. I threw all my clothes inside the washing machine and used the sink beside it to clean all the dirt and mud off of me. Dirt and mud that had caked up over the past days and weeks, and it had really been days and weeks out here. The process of setting up my farm had become so disorientating that I'd lost track of time. I took a pair of scissors and started to chop away at the luscious locks of hair, giving me a new lease on life. I now felt fresh and reinvigorated. and I looked a little suspect, but I couldn't grow hair back, so it was either this hairstyle or being bald. As I threw my cleaned and dried clothes back on, I was finally able to look beyond my farm. What did I want to achieve next? And there was one thing that piqued my curiosity.
Man, you know what? I would love to have a gun or two. That's all I'm gonna say. I just don't know if there's anywhere I could do it. I just can't see a scenario in which like it's acquirable. Maybe the West Point gun store, but it's like it could be crazy. Okay, there is a gun store. This is a bad idea, but I'm kind of you know what, sometimes you need a little bit of action in your life is all I'm gonna say. Okay, there is a gun store that's a little bit further up the road from the mad dude's den, whatever, wherever I went previously. I don't know how congested it's gonna be, but I think it's possible that we could go in there and cause some trouble. So you know what, I think I'm just gonna do it. We just gotta hope it's not too crazy. It probably will be, but I mean, we've tackled a lot of things that maybe I didn't think we could, so never say never.
And so for the first time in a long time, I left my resort, heading into the unknown. But as far as what happens next, you'll find out in the next episode. No, just kidding. Let's raid a fucking gun store. Now, most locations with guns and ammunition were at best extremely difficult to get into, and at worst impossible to get near. But I think I found a hidden gem, because this was not only out in the country, but there wasn't much civilization nearby it. I'd still have to play it by ear, but at the very least, by following a back road, I was able to get extremely close without committing to anything. And as I neared the building, I discovered that this was exactly what I was looking for.
I gotta be careful not to reverse when I get up here. You're very, very close now. We could just sneak through the forest here. It's dangerous to go through the forest, but at the same time, I mean, if I can go in stealthily here, it's gonna make a huge difference. Gosh, this might be manageable, man. This is looking manageable. Here we go. This is where the fun begins. Dude, this place looks pretty accessible. I'm gonna bring the car in closer. I'm gonna clear out these ones though. Alright, I'm gonna bring the car. I'm not gonna take it all the way in because there's no point attracting every zombie there, but you can definitely get it closer. Yeah, not the most convenient meta event. It is the other way from the store. It is an extremely convenient meta event, actually. This almost couldn't have gone any better. Look at them, they're all leaving. This should be it here. Question is whether I can get in. I can sledge in the side. That worked out so well. I've never had a meta event literally help me before. There might be one inside I can hear. Is that somewhere here? There's a few in here. I gotta be careful. The hell have you got on your back? And what the hell are you wearing? Wow. That almost couldn't have gone any better. What the hell were you carrying? More fancy boots? Don't mind if I do. What the hell? You were loaded. Aiming one, that's literally perfect. Holy. I gotta take all of this, by the way. It's a lot of ammo, man. So evidently this is a very accessible gun store compared to all the other ones. Another shotgun here. There's just so much stuff on the floor now, man. Take the hatchet. That might be, I think it's considered an axe. That's a big win. Magazine limb armor. Sure. Second aiming one as well. Nice. Okay. I think this space is pretty much cleared. I cannot fit anything else. Nor do I really think there's anything else in here. I think the next one along is a camping. See, it is a camping store. It might be good. I should have a peek.
I had spotted a camping store right beside the gun store, and yes, my car was practically full to the brim, but with a little bit of reorganizing, I felt confident I might yet fit in just a little bit more. So I headed down the road to a single solitary house, deciding to hole up here for the night before heading back in the morning. The house itself had a few valuable items, and when I woke up in the morning, I spent some time funneling through the loot I had and what came from the house, trying to drop anything that I didn't absolutely need, and reorganize what I had kept. And though it wasn't much, I did make just a little bit of space. Enough to make this trip to the camping store worth it.
What are we looking for? Another axe? We got the pickaxe, we got the, you know, we got the hatchets. They're a big thing, but a wood axe would be just disgusting. Then we'd really be set up. We can cause some trouble here with this pickaxe. Like, I'm a little bit too confident it might not be a good thing. There's more in there, I imagine. Is there not more in here? Oh. There's such good boots. Whistle apparently is quite useful. I'll probably end up dying with it, but first aid kit? It's supposed to have stuff in it, but it doesn't. I don't even know what that is, but it says axe. Say no more. This is probably better than what I'm wearing because it hasn't got any holes in it, to be honest. Nothing special. We'll take the top. I don't even know what that is, but I want it. These are heavy, but they do seem like they might be a good thing to have. I kind of have some room to spare, so I might... Oh, wait, there's stuff in the back. Never mind. I was going to say, I might take the clothes just because I might want to level up my tailoring a little bit.
In reality, I could have stopped here, but if you're not seeing a pattern in how I handle situations like this, then I don't know what to tell you, because right across the road was a gas station and a diner, and getting a few more seasonings and spices would be a great upgrade with not much weight requirement. So I caved again, zooming across the road and parking up. This drew much less attention from the undead than I thought it would. Again, a huge plus to looting in areas like this is that there just isn't many undead to worry about in the first place. After checking through the first building, I spotted 2 good condition step vans in the car park, both of which held more storage than my green van, and were in better condition also. So, though it was bittersweet, I suspected the best move here may be to commandeer one. Now, full transparency, as many of you will know, I did know how to hotwire cars, but I'm extremely stupid, and I kind of forgot that. So instead I stuffed around trying to find a key for around 10 minutes. And though it wasn't necessary, I did remember an extremely valuable comment about finding keys on the ground, and how many I'd missed. Well, I'm happy to report that I have finally learned from my mistakes.
Maybe I could just look on the ground like my comments tell me. Just find the key! Just find the key! Oh my god. Oh, I need to read my comments more. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I owe that to you. I owe that to you every second.
So I had acquired a new and improved van, and this thing was in impeccable condition. Not only did I have even more storage, resolving my issues of being able to fit everything on the run home, but the hood had taken less damage, and the engine and battery were looking way better than my Greens van. I spent a few minutes shifting all my belongings from my old Greens van into my new black step van, and though it felt a little sad to leave behind my Greens van, I always had to make the best decision, regardless of sentimentality, and so I began the long trek home, not just towards my resort, but towards the end of my journey. For the sake of nostalgia, I stopped by Mad Dan's den, since it was nearby, to see if there was any furniture that might come in handy. I searched through the place and finally found a companion to share my journey with.
Wait a second. This looks just like Mr. Brolo. It's perfect. I don't even know if you can put in storage, please. I just put Mr. Brollo in my backpack. He's coming home with me.
And so I stuffed my new friend inside my backpack and took a quick rest stop inside the building outside, a familiar bedroom that I had stayed in before hopping back in the van and beginning the long journey back home, to my ultimate farm, to my resort, and to the peace and serenity of the wilderness.
And so begins the long drive home, stocked up with weapons, stocked up with ammo, with food, with a new friend, though inanimate, you know, he means well, Mr. Brollo, my frozen Mr. Brollo in time. It does get lonely in the resort, you know, it might be nice to have a friend. But it begs the question, you know, is this the end? You know, do we complete the collection or what's next? And I have to be honest, you know, despite all of the stuff we've accomplished, I kind of feel like there's a glaring shadow above us and that we haven't truly accomplished anything that impressive yet. You know, what if we were to take all of this work, all of this time, reinforce our home, and then go out and lay claim to a monument in the wilderness? And there are plenty of them. There are plenty of places I have not yet explored that await in Build 42. I guess we will just have to wait and see at what comes next.
Thanks for watching the video, and once again, a special thank you to Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. You can download the game today through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen.